Hi, Ben here from Supercoach Insider, giving you my recap. It was Carlton versus North Melbourne yesterday, and straight away, Doherty just get absolutely effed. I don't know if you're like me, highly owned player, so bad. I just want him out of my side. So I want to talk about that a little bit as well. Who would have thought that Doherty would be a role player? And that first half was horrible. Last week, he racked up 39 touches and just killed it as far as, last week he was the butcher, but got plenty of the ball. This week, he just didn't get the ball and had a bad game. So it was really, really painful to see. Sard had the way better role. Doherty was pushing up and getting, behind the stoppages. And that meant he didn't really get it. So second half was better. Killed it in the third quarter, and I was like, okay, here we go, 37-point third quarter, let's go. And, fizzled out with, 70, so it wasn't very good at all. 71 Supercoach, 19 touches. It could have been a lot better because he dropped 3 marks, and some of those were intercept marks where, it should have been at least, 6 to 8 points, 4 on an intercept, or at least definitely some good Supercoach points there. So he should have been better. Should have been more like a 90-odd on a bad game, but in the end it was a 71. Now, you're probably thinking, like everyone else in every forum I've ever seen, they're like, Doherty, get out of my side. But the issue is he's going to be about $540K, so he would have dropped about $60,000, $70,000. And in order to get up to one of the good premiums, Sicily, Dawson, Stewart, it's going to cost you money. Now, I don't think Stewart's going to drop enough to be valuable, maybe as a sideways. And here's the real kicker, and this is the thing that you do need to consider if you are looking at getting rid of him, is that, number one, I still think from this point forward, you've already got his bad scores. So from this point forward, is he still going to average 100 plus towards 110? Yes, I believe he will. And I think the main reason is that Walsh comes back into that side, and then Doherty should go back to his old role. Now, that's the fingers crossed element. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but it would be really cavalier or just take some caution in the fact that when Walsh does come back in, you might see the old Doherty come and return. I don't know if it's just form or the butcher. He had his first child in January, so maybe he's tired. Maybe the old first child syndrome is getting to him. I don't know. But look, I am definitely hurting. I said to people, don't get rid of Doherty, he's still a top 6 defender. And then those that did, I'm like, oh, but yeah, actually good job getting rid of Doherty. So look, that's pretty much where he sits with that. Sard had the much better role. Doherty was pretty much playing like a role player for the first half, and it was so bad to watch and see. But look, those watching this game, though, North Melbourne, I thought were very impressive. Now, if they bring that effort every week, I think they're going to go a long way, and they're definitely winning some fans in that process. Now, this was very much a close match for a lot of it until it blew out in the second half. And the main reason is that North Melbourne had smaller defenders, and then you had pretty much the 2 common medalists, big forwards, which is how Carlton's kind of got over a couple of teams now, is, Charlie, Curnow, and Mackay, pretty much dominated from that point. And, Curnow kicked 5, and that also kind of impacted Zeeble in a sense because he was having to play as that a taller defender. No Griffin Logue, no Mackay from the other side as well from North. So he had to play taller. Now, meanwhile, Zeeble was killing it. He was on 64 at half time. Absolutely dominating. Even looked like he was on about 80, I think, towards 3/4 time. And just before 3/4 time hit, he gave away a free in the contest, and the umpire decided that he kind of pushed him late. So it became a free against into a 50-metre penalty, and just saw his score plummet. Outside of that, it's a little bit harder when I think Carlton were getting the run of things, but his role was still very, very, very good for Supercoach. He just kind of tapered off and got a 92 in the end, so I'll take a 92. And I think it's definitely, once you have those tall defenders come back in, he'll be the guy kind of going and linking up behind them or getting the cheapies off those other defenders because they'd rather the ball in his hands instead of a Logue or a Mackay. So, so I'm really excited for his game there. And speaking of game, it's also Sheezel is the other one that I really need to speak about. Just so dominant with Sheez. Now, he has the most disposals in a first 4 games ever, which is crazy. And I think they were talking about it took Ablett 100 games or something or other to have 3 games of 30 disposals or more in a row or something to that effect, which is just crazy to see. And Sheezel started slow. He was on 37 or 38 at half time, And I'm tweeting out, chatting to my mates on the text and stuff saying, hey, he is human, everyone. He's human. He's only on like 38. How dare he give me, average numbers for a rookie? Obviously still really good anyway. And then comes out with an absolutely fantastic second half and ends up with 111 Supercoach. So he looks like a $200,000 keeper that we can just put into defense or forward, depending on how you need him throughout the year. And Doherty, who we paid $600,000 for, is absolutely spudding. So look, that's the roundabouts that we get with good old Supercoach, and Shees will probably get up to about $400,000 real quick throughout this first couple of rounds here. So look, the other one, Cowan, and we had people message as well with Cowan saying, hey, should we risk it for the biscuit? If you did like me, then you got that extra one Supercoach point. So much worth that risk. Could have been more, should have been more. Carlton don't use him enough, in my opinion. So I think he's definitely valuable. They were talking about, the commentators were talking about maybe subbing someone like him. I was like, you better not. He was on 30 at halftime, looked like he was on track for like a 60-odd, and then just kind of tapered away a little bit as happens. So look, 51, can't be too upset with that. The free roll with the extra one Supercoach. So I think JP said, it's a game of inches, and that inch is one Supercoach. So that's pretty much for that part there. The other things worth noting, so LDU, Luke Davies-Uniacke was killing it in the first quarter. Had like some contested marks, some freeze for, was linking up, though, like actually North was centering it into the middle of the field and really going through him, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. At that point, I was like, man, why didn't I get LDU? Because he just looked so impressive, so dominant. And what happened is Hewitt started to match up on him at any sort of contest and then tried to spread from there. And what actually happened was LDU really got stomped out in the second half, and that really stalled his scoring. Now, he looked like he was on track for like an 80 or 90, so I think he really did well in the back end of the game once North Melbourne came back and made the score more serviceable than it should have been. So it shouldn't have been like 23 points. I think it was like 40, 50 points at one point. So the fact that they actually did come back and kick some scores, I think he then improved his scoring enough to scrape through 100. So for a guy who got attention, I'll take 100. I think you can't be too unhappy with, considering he did bang out some 140s, 150s. So that's the floor of LDU, and I think you can't be too upset with that. So if you have him, I think you still need to be quite impressed with what he's bringing, because to get attention and get 100, I think is way better than your Brayshaws and stuff like that, who usually tank when they get a little bit of attention their way. Speaking of attention, now Phillips is one. Now this is really interesting. So Phillips, if you brought him in, and I wasn't really sold on him specifically because I was like, okay, Greenwood's in the wing, and he also plays mid. You've also got Wardlaw, who's getting 24 touches and improving in the second. So I was like, if Phillips was already sub in round one, not playing round two, only in because they were short on mids, I was like, well, his security's not great. But what actually happened in this game, which was interesting, is that they actually subbed out Cunnington. And the interesting part is that the actual Alistair Clarkson said, I think it was post-game, and he actually said, let me just find it real quick. He was saying that we just can't keep blokes on the field if they're not playing the role to their capability, and we needed to make a change, and that's the way we went. And he said that about Cunnington, which I think is really good for Phillips, because it means that he thought Phillips was playing his role. Cunnington had a stinker, wasn't doing his job well enough, so they subbed him. So that's brutal, but good news for Phillips owners if you did get on there. He was playing like a half-forward sort of role, but pushing up to stoppages, kind of like what a Flanders would be doing, except better than Flanders. So I think for 150k or whatever you got him at, I think it's definitely one that I kind of wish maybe I went now based off the extra games data. Did well enough, probably looked like it was more like a 70 odd rather than a 60, but I think if you got him, I think you'd be pretty happy that you took that risk, because in hindsight with them subbing Cunnington and those words about Cunnington, I think Phillips is now probably a little bit better of a bet than he was looking before the game. So you should be really happy. Let me know if you went him. Also, Rowson signed a 2-year contract on top of his 2 years, which was the other one people are probably looking at. So that now means he's drafted last year, had a 2-year contract already, now extended for 2 more years, so he's there for 4 years total, and it's no wonder that they're playing him straight in the CBAs. So I expect he's the way that I actually went for as far as my downgrade this week. So fingers crossed it works out for me as well as it did for you. The other one worth noting as well is, let's go with, so LDU, Cunnington subbed. North I thought was really good in their efforts, and Cripps and Sard were the other two. Now, Sard I thought did really well. Some people are talking, getting him instead or sidewaysing Doherty to get to him. But again, once Walsh comes back into that side, I think everything's going to complement a little bit more. And I think having Walsh in the side is going to be good for Doherty. Hopefully Doherty can clean up his act a little bit and move forward that way. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking there. Sard could be impacted by Doherty going back there. So if you've got him already, well done. But otherwise, I'd be a little bit cautious with the possible Doherty change in role. Now, if that role does change over the next sort of week or two, because Doherty's got these 2 bad scores now. So if you don't have him, I'd be watching to see what his role is with Walsh back, and then seeing that, hey, if it looks like it's a good role and now conducive to Supercoach and he's doing well, then you could bring him in a couple of days' time, a couple of weeks' time, where that low is still in his cycle, and you'll be able to get him for under 500. So it looks like he'll be 450 to 500, depending on if he can really spike a high score. Now, the reason I'm not as concerned with Doherty is I still think over the longevity of the year, he still bangs out these 130s with a high ceiling, so it'll balance out his average a little bit. Walsh back in, I think, does help. But also, because of the high ceiling, I'm not as worried about cash, because I know he's going to drop down. He'll drop down to like 450, 500. And I know that with this high ceiling, he'll just bounce back to year 520, 530, 550 at some point anyway. So I'm not as concerned about the cash drop. However, the main deciding factor would be, well, if I can get Stewart, who's already at his low, if I can get to him without really making a downgrade and trying to do all this other fancy stuff, if I can get Stewart in and he's at his base already, and then he'll go up and I can already have Stewart. Otherwise, I could then let Doherty have the dip, and then if I do need another upgrade, I might be able to get him there. So it'd be more of a case of, getting rid of one that's about to drop even further to get a guy that's already at the dip. And then Stewart would then continue, and then that allows me a bit more time to watch Doherty. That would be the only consideration I could actually have for getting rid of him at this point. Otherwise, I think he's just a hold. We bitch and moan always on Twitter. Get out of my side. As soon as the Supercoach opens, you trade him out of your side, and then you feel good. Then the next morning, you're like, yeah, stuff Doherty. You wake up and go, oh, yeah, maybe, look, I'll just he's a premium. I've already lost 60K. It's going to cost me more to get to someone else, so maybe I'll just leave him. And I think rationale and common sense will hold out for a lot of us. So I know a lot of other Supercoaches are thinking the same way, as far as just, you hope Walsh comes back and you hope he turns his tide. But he did get 39 touches last week, so it's not like he couldn't get the pill. It was that game that he had should have been like a 110, 120 last week. It wasn't. This was kind of the poor showing where he had 19 touches or 18 touches, and it wasn't really great. So, yeah, 19 touches. So this was kind of the low in the cycle on top of the low last week because he butchered it. So, yeah, look, that's pretty much it for that. If you had Hollands, he's chipping away with a 52. So, a little bit underwhelming, but still valuable to their side. So I still see him playing as well at that point. And, Cripps did enough. 114 Supercoach, 29 touches. I think he'll also be better with Walsh coming back in because, he can then link up with the handballs and link up with Hewitt and Walsh, and it just complements everyone together. Whereas at the moment, he's been kind of trying to do everything off his own back and trying to kind of carry them through. So he actually did very well to also come back into this game. He was held to like 8 touches for so long of this game. And then that second half when Carlton really pushed is where Cripps actually started to really dominate and get through with Supercoach. So that looked like it was going to be a real poor game out for Cripps. Just not because he wasn't trying, I don't think, but because he just couldn't get himself into the game. So I thought he did really well to actually get back in and start to score really well in that area. And look, that's pretty much it at this point. So yeah, that's it. Let me know if you like this little series. Let me know what you're looking forward to today. Quick little shout out on Sideways. I think it's raining in the MCG this afternoon, so I'm actually considering getting off my Bontempelli VC. I did not go with Dacos VC, so unfortunate for me. But because if it's wet, I don't know if it's going to be as good for a Bontempelli and those kind of skills. So I might actually now go to a Laird VC into a Clary. So yes, I've got Clary. I'll tell you all about it in my weekly pod coming up later this week. But that's it. Stay tuned. Please do like, subscribe. Check out the other series as well. Brisbane and Collingwood I did yesterday. So let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.